Ryan Holiday. I'm here with Ed, the man, Parrot, Mario Lights Out Spina, and Carl No Eggs Yet Carrot.
And Shauna and Dave Dukes.
And Jen.
But she's behind the camera always, you know.
She'll take care of that later. All right. The big thing I want to focus in on is all these big leads that we've been seeing that have been dropped. What's going on with that? Why are these teams not focusing in like they did at the start and keeping these defenses going and keeping their offense stellar, and they're just dropping it? What's going on with that?
I talked to the guys at NBC today. They want you to watch the second half, so they make the second half very interesting. Or as we say in your country, very interesting.
Much interest?
Much interest. No, seriously.
Like
I don't know, dude. I mean, first of all, it's elementary, dude. In the NFL, I don't care, high school, college, no lead is safe. And you think after the first few weeks these guys would learn this. You and me and Mario have preached throughout the show this year about the X's and O's at halftime, the coaching, the changes that are made, the adjustments that are made to adapt to the game, and to make adjustments and come out and take control of the game. And apparently, some of these guys just get a lead and think, we're cool.
And you know what's funny about that, Ed, is like we have talked about that, and some of these certain teams that have blown these leads are the same team that a week before or the week after come back from being down in the first half.
Right. You have a 10, 13, 14, 21 point lead, and you start seeing it deteriorate. You don't catch wind of that.
Right. Yeah, there's plenty of time to make adjustments.
Something wrong.
Nothing's happening.
Right. Make an adjustment. I mean, I just don't understand that mentality of it. You let that happen.
I mean,
even the Redskins against the Rams this week, it was 17-0 for a long time. The bad Lambs scored 10 points unanswered.
That's a lot for them.
And had a chance at the end of the game to answer that other 7.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't get it done because they couldn't catch the ball.
Well, you have a Bills team who just the week prior came back to beat New England. You have also a Bills team who the week prior came back to beat Oakland. Mm-hmm. And yet you have a Bills team who was leading and Cincinnati came back to beat Buffalo.
Yeah, but you know what? That's different, dude. Because as far as Buffalo, like, they did come back and win those games, and they came back hard, and they fought, and they fought hard to get the game, won, and they did their job. But that was a different scenario than this week. They just played Cincinnati and Buffalo played to it like a duel.
Mm-hmm.
They just dueled, man.
It was as low of a scoring of a shootout as you could possibly
It just came down to I think that's why the Bills lost, because they're used to that shootout mentality.
Yeah, the 31 points.
That wasn't there. Yeah. It was just a blah game. You duke it out and score at the end. And at the end, Dalton had the answer, and Fitzpatrick did not.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then what would you say would be the excuse for? And I'm not saying this to knock your Cowboys at all, but I mean, as far as the Detroit Cowboys game, I mean, that was a fourth quarter that I'm sure that Tony Romo will love to forget.
The whole second half was anti-Cowboy.
Yeah.
I mean,
that fourth quarter was really bad, though. They was still up by 17 in the fourth. That's a huge lead, and they dropped that in one quarter.
Yeah. So I mean, every time that there was anything sort of exciting going on in the game, I remember Carl texted me yesterday just saying, like, the Lions are up by this, the Lions just did this, you know what I mean? This is what's happening now. And the whole time I'm just like thinking, not even thinking about the Lions, I'm thinking about what's happening to the Cowboys right now. Like, what's going on? Like, what as far as fundamentally, what's breaking down for the Cowboys that they're just not getting,
Yeah, I was very surprised by that because, like, they had the game in hand forever. And like I said a while ago, when they started seeing them be let go, they didn't go, oh, hold on, ooh, let's grab it. They just, Des Bryant had a good game, Romo had a good game, Witten had a touchdown.
Right.
They were rolling, man, and everything was in their direction. Everything was in their favor, and they just, and how do you do that with the Jerry Jones own team, with the coach they have, and the Ryan on defense? Like, they made some stupid mistakes on defense after the Romo gave it away. Romo threw 2 pick sixes. back to back. That's just you can't do that. And I feel bad for the guy because he worked so hard to bring back his, image and whatnot, and to be a team leader, and did a good job. And then this week, it looked great. They got on top. They got overconfident, and then let it go.
Well, one thing,
but but like I said earlier, and I know I already said this, but I'm gonna repeat myself. You cannot make stupid ass defensive penalties, especially in the end zone on third down late in the game. They had the Detroit Lions down there in the red zone on third down. All you had to do is hold them. Detroit decided to pass the ball, make it incomplete, be done with it. They had a holding penalty in the end zone. First and goal, half the distance, new life. And they lost the game. I mean, you can't do that. You hold them to a field goal and you fight it out in overtime. That was just a stupid, boneheaded play. And I do not accept it. No accept.
So, since we're on the subject of Buffalo, they came back, like you said, beat Oakland and the Patriots both. What allowed them to do that? Where was the plays made? Was it more of an offense thing or was it more of a defense thing?
I honestly think that it was, as far as the New England side of the argument, I would say is more of a defensive thing. I mean, they picked Romo off, or they picked Brady off 3 times, or 4 times. 4 times. 3 off of a batted pass, or just a block pass, or a tip pass, or whatever. So I think in that situation, it's just the chance that your defensive scheme happens to throw an elite quarterback off. You know what I mean? You just happen to, all those plays that you ran through in practice seem to to actually work.
Right.
But if you actually mean something.
If you throw the elite quarterback off, how do you not throw Dawson off?
Well, yeah. But, I mean, at the same time, you have, I guess maybe it just could come down to the discipline of the teams. You have a Buffalo team who's just gunning for New England just because of the fact that there are 2 teams in the same conference that are 3-0. And this is the first conference game that Buffalo saw all year, so they were wanting to come out strong. Whether or not, they had kind of a lackluster first half, but that second half, just like they showed with, Oakland the week before, they kind of proved to capitalize on those mistakes that Brady was making, kind of throw his timing off just enough to be able to make him throw, even if it was a bad throw or a late throw, it's late enough for somebody to be able to get their hand up and tip it, and somebody to be able to catch it and be in the right position to take it back. For however much.
Right. There are small things you do on defense that can disrupt the quarterback's timing and so forth. But I think for me, CT, what I would say on that is the offense, because the defense was not allowing them to hold a lead and keep it. They were allowing the other team to come back and stay close and tie it and blah blah blah. So I think in the end, Buffalo's success before yesterday was offense and answering the call. But yesterday, like I said, they've been used to fighting back and having a duel going on, and yesterday they didn't get that. They got a hard-fought defensive game, and in the end, Dalton had a good drive for the Bengals, and in the end, pulled Aaron Rodgers and ran it himself. But Buffalo, as far as Fitzpatrick, he didn't throw any picks. I didn't see any fumbles. It's not
it was a back and forth game.
A good football game.
Yeah,
actually.
It was.
Now, what about Detroit? They came back over Minnesota and Dallas. Obviously we've discussed the Dallas situation, but what led them to come back over Minnesota the way they did? What's going wrong with Minnesota right now?
Well, number one, Minnesota, who we don't take seriously.
Everything going on.
I think that it has a lot.
Jared Allen is like the Matt Forte in Chicago, a lone star in a black sky.
But they've got Adrian Peterson too, though.
And same thing, a lone star in a black sky.
For the longest time, really their defensive player that shined was Antoine Winfield, and then whenever you get Jared Allen, who just has a couple of breakout seasons, you're all of a sudden okay, Antoine who. You go straight to the defensive end who's just lighting people up. But Antoine Winfield's kind of getting a little bit older, and people are kind of catching on to what Jared Allen does and his schemes. People are coming up with certain offensive plays as far as the left tackle and the right tackle positions to be able to figure out what Jared Allen's doing as far as defensively anytime that he switches sides or whatever. So I think that, for Detroit to come back against a Minnesota team, it's a little bit easier than to come back, per se, to a Dallas team when, your number one offensive weapon obviously is Calvin Johnson, who's being covered by your number one cornerback in Terrence Newman. And Terrence Newman is getting a little bit up there. He might not be able to. I mean, he's played. I mean, this is his 10th or 11th season.
I don't take that. I think he should still be lights out this year. I mean, he should still be Revis Island. He should still be doing his own thing.
He should be.
Don't throw to me.
But I mean, when
he's making some bad. I saw him make some bad decisions on plays, and it's like that's just mental stuff. I mean, it's on you as a player.
I think mentally, the Cowboys offensively have to be more worried than they should be defensively. Defensively, they're a little bit more sound. They're a lot more sound actually, and they're a lot more. They know what their identity is. They know what they want. It's just kind of taking them a little bit to maybe find that niche, because I think that Rob Ryan's kind of switching so many players around. Like, okay, as far as the cornerback blitz, like you're going to be the blitzer on this one, but this guy's going to be blitzing. You know what I mean? He switches players around so much because he wants to use everybody for every different sort of situation.
But that does not excuse a holding penalty in the end zone in the fourth quarter.
No, it doesn't.
In the last drive. That's no accept. Carl?
I agree.
No accept.
Many no.
Let's speak about identity. Last week we mentioned about the Miami Dolphins had no identity. The Minnesota Vikings have no identity. They have, McNabb in there now, and
kind of trying to coach up Christian Ponder, but
Christian Ponder is probably the future there.
Maybe they needed throw him in.
What do they have? No one seems to believe in themselves in Minnesota anymore.
To me, the last couple seasons under Favre, their identity was this high-powered offense, like run and gun, just shoot them out. Like deep passes.
Rice.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Percy Harvin, who at the time was just a slot receiver under Sidney Rice and Bernard Berrien. I think Bernard Berrien, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, he was the third guy. But you have these players. I mean, Sidney Rice, obviously a huge star. I mean, it was Brett Favre's most favorite target whenever they went to the NFC Championship.
Oh, big time.
I mean, that entire year was Percy Harvin's year as far as, Minnesota's receivers go. And then, or Sidney Rice's year. I'm sorry, Sidney Rice's year as far as and then Percy Harvin. I mean, obviously, not only in the Madden game that we played where he lit us up, but in real life, in real life, he's up until I would say up until this season, he's been pretty much lights out. So you have this high-powered offense, especially run by Adrian Peterson, but when you have a quarterback who's number one, I would say, as far as McNabb, is confused by the offensive scheme. You have a lackluster defense or offensive line, and you have miscommunication constantly between your running back and your receivers and your quarterback. You're just not gonna do so.
Well,
you're looking at a dismal season at best. You're looking at a fourth. They're already looking at maybe fourth, third. Number 3 in the draft pick. Yeah.
McNabb's done, dude. And Minnesota is not a fit for him. He's not Culpepper. You know what I mean? He's after Philadelphia. There was no McNabb. There shouldn't be any McNabb. He's done.
Yeah.
Okay. Kurt Warner looked that way and came back and made it happen. McNabb will not do that. He's done. So the Vikings are pretty much at a loss, and this is a wash season. They're going to play for a draft pick, and we'll see what they do next year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to happen. Uh-oh.
Well, what about Atlanta's comeback over Philly?
What? That's last week.
It was last week. We're talking about comebacks.
Comebacks. Oh, okay. Well, Vic went out, and then Atlanta did answer the call, and then they did perform the way they should and win the game. But since then, they've done what?
Yeah, and you have a team that gave up so much for Julius Jones, and so far in this season, it's almost like you can just be like, Julio Jones. I'm sorry, I said Julius, but you can almost be like Julio who so far.
He hasn't done much.
He really hasn't done.
Do you guys think? I'll ask you a question right quick. Do you guys think that teams ever play for draft picks? Like
To start off with, no, but I think that later on in the season,
Yeah.
they get that
I think a
mindset.
lot-
be done with it. And
I
get a draft
definitely
pick.
think that they get that mindset, especially whenever they're doing, like KC was doing up until this past week, or like the Rams or the Vikings, or even the Colts at this point. Whenever they're down by so much and they're showing no signs of anything that could possibly improve what they're doing, because they've tried, putting different people in different spots. They've tried filtering out the different players at different times, and nothing is coming together for any of them. So, about 2 more games from now, I think that's whenever they get it set in their mind. There's nothing more we can do this season other than play it out. But at the same time, they're thinking, okay, we botched it so bad to start with. What can we do at the draft to make sure this doesn't happen next year? So, like right now with the Rams, wide receivers, that's what they need. Bar none. They need that and offensive line.
Oh, O-line, big time.
And,
I honestly think that as far as the scouting goes for like looking forward to next season, they've already got probably. Each team is probably already has a team of people looking at college scouts right now, just saying, okay.
Well, the thing about the Rams is they have this stadium lease coming up. This stadium lease thing where
in 2014.
they,
I don't know, but part of their contract
Standards,
as far
yeah,
as
I mean,
it's part of their contract as far as if them staying in St. Louis, they
Right.
have to have like a top tier dome
Right.
or stadium.
and I think right now the Rams, Sam Bradford is wonderful.
Yeah.
I believe wholeheartedly in Sam Bradford right now, even through 0-4 season so far. It's not Sam's fault. I believe in Sam Bradford. I believe in the Rams overall, but I think that we are in danger in this city of losing our NFL team if they don't turn it around. If this season goes on, they might win 4 games this year, and that's if.
they're lucky. They had a tough schedule, which I don't care what anybody says, schedules do matter, because there
Schedules
are
do
some
matter.
teams that are just that much better. than
And
others.
some of these teams have came to St. Louis this season, but I'm just saying,
Right.
it does matter where you're going.
That dome is not exciting.
No, it's not.
The only time it was when the greatest show on turf.
No, when you get yelled at for standing up in the stands, it's not exciting.
That was my
Yeah,
first
they
time
charged
going
the
to a
question.
live football game, is whenever I went with Ed.
Right.
And it was dead. There was nothing going on. The only cheers that we heard were from Ravens fans. And we was surrounded by them. I was wondering, where the hell are the fans for the Rams?
Well, CT, I'll tell you, I've been to a lot of Rams games, and I've always seen a lot of opposing fans there. At one point, if you recall, about 2 or 3 seasons ago, on the news, there's a big thing about, hey, let's bring our fans in. Why are the other fans? They buy the tickets up, and the opposing team would have more fans than we would. That ain't going to stop anytime soon. You're not winning the football game.
Right.
This town is in danger of losing our football team and our stadium. You got to step. I don't know. I can't say enough about it. This is a bad time for St. Louis football.
It is.
It's bad. And if we lose it, we might not get it back. LA wants the team again.
Yeah.
So,
but when you look at the grand aspect of things, as far as Buffalo is kind of at the same time having a great season so far, but also kind of saving their franchise because they're one of those teams that LA's been looking at, to just bring them to LA and just get them out of New York, because they've been pretty much dismal for the last 5, 6, 10 years.
Because they're standouting. They're standouting.
Stand out. That's a great word.
Well, that's what
You
we're
made
using.
that up.
But
Just not.
I stood out once.
yeah, but basically that's all I've got for this segment. So, how about we close this up?
Pig Sty, Cat Jackson.
All
See ya.
right. See you next week.